Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy and today we're doing some Dollar Tree DIYs for your Christmas home decor. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. And if you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. And now, without further ado, let's get started. For this Dollar Tree DIY, I'm using a candy cane wreath form, 2 microfiber dusting cloths, some red and white beads, some scrap greenery, and a black tag. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my dusting pad, get that all ready, and this will use exactly 2 of these pads. So I'm going to flip it over and glue that pad to the bottom of my candy cane wreath form. And you can just kind of be real messy about this, and it's super fast and easy because the fuzzies of the dusting pad kind of hides everything and you don't have to be super careful. Now when I get to the curved part of the candy cane, I'm going to give it little slits at that curve on the inside so that it rolls around that and you can glue those individual pieces to the back. And this will be a little bit easier to do if you put the glue directly onto the dusting pad and then just roll it over. And then at the ends, I'll do the same thing, just glue it all down and push it over. There'll probably be a little bit of shedding from those things, not a little bit, kind of a lot. It kind of gets all over the place and sticks to your fingers too, but as long as you get enough glue on the back, it'll all stay put. So now I'm going to take some white string, and I was going to use some of Dollar Tree's red beads, but I ended up not having enough to do what I wanted to. So I'm going to change it up a little bit and use a small one, then a medium one, and then a large one, and then go down the other way, back medium and then small. You see what I'm doing here. And then I put 2 white ones on each end. And those are going to be the stripes of our candy cane. And so I want to give myself a lot of string so that I can pull them apart and I'm not wasting any beads on the back. I did a total of 5 sets to make those stripes and then just wrapped it around, and then I'll take the ends of my string and tie that to the back of my wreath form. You might have to use a needle to get that string through or around that wreath form in the back to make it secure, because I did use a lot of glue on my dusting pads to make sure it stayed in place. But once you slide them into place, now you've got your little stripes. So now I'm going to use some pretty Christmas ribbon, and the striped ribbon I got from Hobby Lobby, and that was 50% off, so I think it was like $3.50. I would also use some Dollar Tree 5/8 inch ribbon in the black and white buffalo check or gingham, whatever you want to call it. I was also going to use some of this flour sack stripe ribbon from Walmart. I know that one's from Walmart. But then I decided to go ahead and use the Dollar Tree black and white polka dots. I just thought that looked cuter and it didn't have so many stripes. But just use whatever colors you're using. I just thought this was a really pretty combo. So I made the red and white striped ribbon a little bit larger on my loops and just folded it over and over and over 3 times. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my black and white check. And I made little snips right in the middle so that I could put my pipe cleaner through that, and then it would make it easier to move my loops around. And now I'm just going to take that extra pipe cleaner and wrap it around the neck of my candy cane, if a candy cane has a neck, and then just twist that on the back. And then I'll dovetail the edges and just fold it over and cut it at an angle so it gives it some more cuteness. And then I'm going to take a black Dollar Tree tag, and I'm using a white paint pen. It's kind of running out of juice, you see here. And I'm just going to freehand Believe and then go back and give it a faux calligraphy look by just making the downstrokes a little bit thicker. So I love sharing the hidden Jesus nuggets of Christmas, and the candy cane can be a sweet reminder of Jesus's birth because of its shape. First of all, you can consider it an upside down J for Jesus, but also it's in the shape of a cane or a staff or a walking stick to represent a journey or walk with God, like Moses and some of the apostles who were also shepherds, you know, like a shepherd's crook. And then it's bright white to represent the purity and perfection of Jesus. And then the red stripes represent the blood from the scourging and how by his stripes we are healed, which you find in Isaiah 53:5. Oh, which by the way was written 700 years before Jesus was even born. And then I wanted my bow to have some longer tails attached to the side. So I just took my gingham and my polka dot ribbon, and I'm just going to tie that to the string of my tag, and then I undid the knot at the end of my tag and fed on a Dollar Tree bell just to give it some jingling. And then I'll attach that right under the right side of my bow. And then I have some greenery, scrap greenery that I like to put in any of my Christmas projects, and I'll just hot glue that on the top and on the bottom. But I didn't want to cover it up too much, so I'm just putting one little piece on each of those sides. And here it is all finished, and I think this turned out so pretty, and it's a little bit original, and I think that's always a good thing. You could use this as a door wreath or something on a mantle or a shelf. I don't know, I think it's just really pretty. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. For this Dollar Tree DIY, I'm using a large wooden tag. This is actually from Valentine's Day, as you can see, and then a wooden star. I'm just going to be using that as a template. So I'm taking off the ribbon and the jute twine. I saw some, what it looked like wood, and I tried to sand it down. I mean, I know it's like that fake wood, but it looked like it had grain. But when I started sanding it, it turns out I was wrong. It was just a painting effect. So I'm going to take my star and I'm going to trace around that with my pen. And then I took some masking tape or painter's tape, and I'm going to mask it along the inside of my lines. So what I'm actually doing is I'm going to paint my board white, and then the brown, that pretty brown that I love so much from the fake wood is going to be in the shape of a star. So once I got all my painter's tape down, I'm going to use a straight edge and a craft knife and just go along those edges to make the points of my star. And then I'm going to paint this white with my chalk paint from Walmart, and I did push down around the edges of my masking tape or painter's tape just to make sure that there wasn't any seepage underneath. And to give my tag a smoother finish, you could do one thick coat of paint, but I think it makes it smoother and nicer if you do two lighter ones. And on the second coat, I use a softer bristle brush to give it that really smooth look. So then I'm going to take my painter's tape off very carefully because I'm one that likes to unmask while the paint's still wet. So in situations like this where you don't want any white paint getting on the brown part, you just have to be really careful and make sure that your fingers are clean from that wet paint. And then I'm going to take some sandpaper and get it rough around the edges and a little more distressed to give it that farmhouse look. So I've heard from some of you that you like when I include the challenges or hard times in my crafting when something doesn't go right and some of the mistakes that can happen. This usually happens when I'm sharing the word, and in this case I was going to write, "Do you see what I see?" That would indicate the Star of Bethlehem that guided travelers to the Nativity. And this was no exception. I used some Dollar Tree silver glittery adhesive vinyl, and I had nothing but problems, and I was powering through. I took like an hour to weed it and try to get it onto the transfer tape, and it wasn't because of my settings, but I ended up finally just throwing in the towel. But I knew I was gonna make this, so I used my silver paint pen, and I'm just gonna do the same type of writing. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but the font that I originally used was Amalfi Coast. So I just kind of copied it and did it myself. But if you guys want to make this project, just, I don't know, just say a prayer before you start or something. But I powered through and just did it myself. So then once I got my words on, and I thought they looked pretty good. It wasn't as good as the original that I had planned, but that's okay. So I'm gonna take some red and white gingham ribbon and just kind of make a loop through that hole. I folded it over twice so it would fit through there, and then just slipped the ends through that loop, and just that made it tie onto there. And then I took some greenery, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm actually crafting mad right here because I was so bummed about my adhesive vinyl and how it didn't work out and how much time I had spent on it. But then I realized that that was just the enemy trying to get me off my game. So anyway, I found my piece and kept working and just put some greenery at the top and then glued that down to my tag, and then added some other in different types of greenery. All of these are from Dollar Tree, and some of them have the little white balls on them. I think those are so pretty. And then I'm going to take some more of the red and white gingham ribbon and make a perky bow. You guys have seen me make these so many times, I didn't want to have you watch again, but I know you guys do like when I poof them out, when I foof my loops. Anyway, I'm going to do that and then attach that to the top ribbon and then twist that extra pipe cleaner around so it stays on top. And then I made a knot at the top of my long parts of my ribbon so that I could use that to hang my tag. And then I had some silver stars from the Dollar Tree that I'm just going to attach with some hot glue here and there to make it look sweet, and then it's done. And here it is, all finished, and I really am glad that I stuck with it, even though someone was trying to get me off of it. But I wanted to incorporate the true meaning of Christmas all throughout my house. So I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For this next project, I'm using one of these little chipboard signs, and I did this part first, and you'll see that it's kind of weird that I did this first because I wasn't sure if I could do it or if it was going to look right, but you'll see what I mean when I get to that point. But I just took a flat edge ruler, and I'm going to use my craft knife to cut this in half. And then I just did a few swipes and kind of bent it, and then did a few more swipes on the other side, and it came out fine. It had a little bit of a double cut edge, so I just went ahead and evened that up with my craft knife, and now they're going to work perfectly for what we're making. So I took two of these little garland wrap stockings, and I just took all of the little cutesies off of it. I put those aside because I might use those in something else, who knows. And then I'm just gonna unwrap all of that mini garland. You'll have to cut some of it to get it started and just pull it all off of there. And then once you get it completely empty, I took my scissors, and these are kind of heavy duty scissors. These are, you probably shouldn't cut plastic like this with your scissors if you want to keep them good, but I did, and I have another pair. So anyway, I'm just going to cut those little knobbies off, and then I made the stockings stick together. There's little tabs that keep them together, but not very well. So I'll just glue that together. And then I took a pair of these ankle socks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to roll down the top where the little lines are of the socks so that you start to see the fuzzy texture from the inside of the sock. And I'm going to make the little seam that is, you know, goes at the toe. I'm going to put that at the very bottom front of my stocking, and then pull the rest of it up, and then roll the top cuff over on top of itself, and that's going to make it to where you can just see the pretty fuzzy texture of the inside of the sock. And then to make it fit a lot better with the shape of the stocking, I'm gonna tuck up that underside because it's hollow there, so it just goes right up in there and makes it a little tighter. So then I took a couple of Jenga pieces and I'm gonna glue those on the inside of the bottom of my boots. These have now become skates. So this is the boot part of the skate. So I'm gonna put a bunch of hot glue inside there and hold it, pinch it together so that it adheres to the side of the inside of the form. That's confusing. And then I'll take one of the halves of my cut signs that we did at the very beginning, glue that to the bottom of my Jenga piece, and now we have a skate. So then I used some baker's twine and I'm gonna thread that onto a wide-eyed needle and then sew it into the sock. And I'm grabbing the inside of the form also just to keep everything in place and just doing the crisscross, you know, like lacing like you would see on an ice skate. And then at the top, I'm gonna tie a sweet little bow. And then to cover up the red form, that plasticky stuff on the inside, I just took some batting and shredded it and stuffed it right into my ice skates. And then I'm gonna take some Dollar Tree shoelace, and I just used one of them. And then I'm gonna thread that onto my needle, but the little ends were a little too fat or thick, so it wouldn't go through the eye of my needle. So I just crunched it down with my needle nose pliers and then threaded it into the sides of my skates so that I could tie them together so that they stay together, you know, like a sweet little pair. And then I'll hot glue those together to keep them in exactly the position that I want. And then once I get them all put together, I'm gonna take some Dollar Tree greenery, and again, this is scrap stuff that I had, and I'm gonna make a sweet little swag and put those together and add some red and white gingham ribbon in just a regular little bow and attach that all to the top of my shoelaces. So then I added a cute little tag that you can find at Walmart. They're so cute. And I'm just gonna thread the ribbon onto my wide-eyed needle again and then poke that into the side of my boot and then make sure it hangs where I want it to. And then there's already a knot in there, so it's gonna stay on the inside of the fabric of the sock. And then I took one of those teeny tiny little velvet bows and I'm gonna hot glue that to the side of my skate. So I'm going to show you the reveal of my little ice skates after I make this next project, because this is what I made this project for actually. And so I took two of the really big signs from the Dollar Tree with the wreaths and then one of the Valentine's Day signs. And I'm going to take all the goodies off of the big sign. I was going to take the paper off, but I decided it wasn't even worth it because I'm going to be painting the inside. That's going to be the inside of our box. But the reason I'm using this Valentine's Day picture is because it's got a frame around it, so it's a little bit thicker at the bottom, and that's going to be important, and you'll see why in just a second. So I measured the sides of the Valentine's Day picture, and I'm going to cut down the larger boards, both of them. So I'll have two side pieces and two of the longer pieces. And so you see we're making a pretty box. Well, it's not pretty now, but it will be. So I took some Jenga pieces and I'm going to get the height of where I want the side pieces to be. And I'm only gluing that on right now. You can still take these sides off for the time being until I get all of those Jenga pieces on, and then I'll glue it all down. So you see I'm going to use glue at the bottom of my Jenga pieces and on the very front bottom of the board, and then that'll put it together on each of the sides. And I want my front two pieces, the longer sides, to go over the edges of those two shorter side pieces so that you have a finished look from the front. And the reason I put those three Jenga pieces on first is so that the bottom is completely flat and level. And then I'm going to do the exact same process for the front and the back by putting those bottom pieces on first so that it's level with the bottom. But the corners of my box are not going to match up until I put more pieces in those corners, because these boards are kind of wonky, you know, they're not exactly flat. But you can get, there's enough give in them so that when you move up the sides of those corners, or the corners of the corners, and you add the Jenga pieces, they'll become more square like a box should be. But it's also not meant to be perfect either, so it's supposed to be a rustic box. So now you can see I've got my whole box built with a million Jenga pieces inside. And you can see here what I was talking about making the front go over the edges of those side pieces for that finished look. So now you guys don't have to do this, but Michael J got me a brad nailer for Christmas. So I'm gonna push those into the sides, and that's another good thing about having the wider bottom. So it's not so thin, and I can go directly into the sides of my boxes at the bottom, and it'll go into that frame, if that makes sense. And then also I did the sides, and those Jenga pieces being there helps me. You have to go at an angle so that you don't have any parts sticking out, but this just makes it a lot more sturdy. Of course, you can always add just a whole bunch of glue on the inside and all of the pieces, you know, where they come together, and that'll still be super stable. So then I'm going to use a little brush on the inside because there's so many little nooks and crannies in there with all those Jenga pieces, and I'm going to paint my entire box red. I'll have to do a couple of coats on the inside to cover up the words. I don't even get it all the way, but it's okay. You're not even going to notice that because it's going to be all filled up with a bunch of pretties. And then I'll paint the outside, and when I do that, I am going to leave a little bit of the pretty brown exposed so it's peeking through just a little bit. So now I'm going to take a Dollar Tree stencil, and then I'm going to use a stippling brush from Essential Stencil. They were so sweet, and they sent me a bunch of stuff from there. I'll have to use that in another project. And I'm going to tape it down with some painter's tape, and I'm just putting a little bit on the edges. But I'm going to take my white chalk paint and then just go up and down. My brush is at a 90-degree angle, so it's straight up and down, and I'm just going to pounce that all over my stencil. And I do peek a couple times just to make sure that I'm going good and it's in the right location. And then I'll put my stencil back down and go about my business until it's done. And then I'll go back and I'm gonna sand it all down around the edges and the corners. And then you want to make sure that you wipe it all off, because anytime you're sanding with red, well, just using red paint in general is just always such a mess, but we definitely want to get all of the ickies off after we sand it. And here's the final product. I am so excited about how this turned out. I filled it with some Christmas trees and then added my skates in there. This is actually the easiest project of all, but I think it's the most adorable, especially with my sweet little skates in there. You could fill it with anything. And if you don't want to do this project, find like a shoebox or something and paint it red. Nobody will be able to tell the difference. I don't know. I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Remember the reason for the season. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!